I remember a night of electrical storm in the workshop. We were surrounded by modern cars that, despite their touchscreens and navigation systems, were nothing more than inert junk because their batteries had decided to give up. The Uncle Larry looked at me while he held an old multimeter and told me something that I will never forget. The majority of the mechanics see a dead battery and see an easy sale of $200. I see an opportunity to understand what is killing the car. Larry explained to me that the battery is the component most misunderstood and abused of the vehicle. The industry has conditioned us to believe that they are disposable consumables that must be changed every 2 years, but that is a half-truth designed to keep the cash registers working. In his leather notebook, Larry had noted 18 tricks that could make a battery considered useless by a dealership scanner work perfectly for 5 years more. Today we are going to submerge ourselves in the 18 forbidden tricks. We are going to talk about the chemistry of the resurrection, of the master resets that eliminate ghost failures, and of why the greatest enemy of your battery is not the cold but something much more subtle that occurs while you sleep. Prepare yourself, because after seeing this, you will never return to deliver your old battery to the junk dealer without first trying these rituals of life. And stay very attentive, because the trick number 10 is the reason why many believe that their alternator has died when in reality they only need an ingredient that you have in your kitchen. Position 18, the electric parasite and the sleep test. One of the secrets most kept by automotive electricians is the concept of parasitic consumption. Larry used to say that a modern car never really sleeps. There are always modules whispering in the darkness. The problem occurs when one of those modules, whether it is the alarm, the satellite tracking system, or even a simple poorly installed music player, remains awake and drains the energy of the battery in a constant way. The majority of the drivers blame the battery when they find the car dead in the morning, but changing the battery in this case is like putting a blood transfusion into someone who has an active hemorrhage. It will serve for nothing in the long term. The trick of Larry to detect this without expensive tools was the test of the multimeter in series. You must disconnect the negative terminal and place the multimeter configured in amperes between the post and the cable. A healthy car should not consume more than 50 milliamps in absolute rest. If you see a higher figure, you have a parasite. The secret to locate it is pulling the fuses one by one while you observe the multimeter. In the moment in which the figure falls, you will have identified the circuit that is stealing your energy. Many times it is a simple switch of the light of the glove box that remains on, or a defective Bluetooth module. Correcting this can make a battery that seemed weak recover its vigor immediately and last additional years. But before searching for parasites, we must look at the face of the battery, because the color of its terminals tells us a story of chemical negligence that we will address in position 17. Position 17, the ritual of bicarbonate and the acid neutralization. That white, green or bluish powder that grows around the terminals of your battery is not just dirt, it is sulfation by evaporation of acid gases. Larry called it the cancer of electricity. What the mechanics do not tell you is that that powder is partially conductive and creates a micro-leak of current through the plastic casing of the battery, besides acting as a massive resistance that prevents the alternator from charging the battery correctly. The trick that Larry utilized was not buying expensive aerosol cleaners, but a simple mixture of hot water and sodium bicarbonate. The chemical reaction is immediate and fascinating. The bicarbonate neutralizes the acid in a safe way, converting the sulfate crystals into a harmless residue that detaches with ease. The additional secret that the professionals hide is the cleaning of the top surface of the battery. A battery whose lid is covered by a thin film of dirt and humidity can have a surface discharge, where the electricity travels literally through the grime from the positive pole to the negative. After cleaning and drying perfectly, Larry applied a technique that he called the seal of victory. He used felt washers soaked in oil or a generous layer of pure petroleum jelly over the terminals. This prevents the acid vapors from reacting again with the metal of the terminals. A clean battery not only looks better, it operates at a lower temperature and receives the charge from the alternator with an efficiency of 100%. But do not stop at the external cleaning, because the true secret of longevity could be hidden under some plastic lids that the manufacturer told you to never open, as we will see in position 16. Position 16, the myth of the maintenance-free battery. This is perhaps the biggest deception of the modern battery industry. Almost all batteries nowadays come with a label that says sealed or maintenance-free. Larry taught me that this is a strategy of programmed obsolescence. In the interior of any lead-acid battery, the chemical reaction consumes water during the cycles of charge and discharge, especially in hot climates. When the level of the electrolyte drops and leaves the lead plates exposed to the air, these oxidize in an irreversible way, losing their capacity to retain charge. The forbidden trick consists in removing with care the sticker or the hidden plastic lids with a flat screwdriver. In the great majority of these sealed batteries, you will find the 6 plugs that give access to the cells. If upon looking inside you see that the plates are dry, the battery will die in a matter of weeks. The secret is to refill them exclusively with distilled water. Never tap water, since the minerals would kill the internal chemistry, until covering the plates by about 10 millimeters. Larry explained that this simple act of rehydration can resurrect a battery that the scanner of the workshop would give for dead. Upon returning its electrolyte level, you allow that all the surface of the plate participates in the chemical reaction again. I have seen batteries that were destined for recycling last 3 years more simply by adding 50 cents of distilled water to them. It is a practice that the manufacturers hate because it reduces drastically the sales of new units. However, hydration is only half of the battle. The other half is the stratification, a physical phenomenon that we will treat in position 15. Position 15, the trick of the shaking and the destratification. Have you ever noticed that your battery seems to die faster if the car stays still during a long time? Larry explained to me the phenomenon of the stratification of the acid. In a battery that does not move, the sulfuric acid, which is more dense than the water, tends to settle in the bottom of the cells. This leaves the upper part of the plates with a very diluted liquid, poor in acid, and the lower part with an acid concentration so high that it starts to corrode the lead in an accelerated way. This chemical imbalance causes that the battery marks a correct voltage on the multimeter, but that it does not have the force, cranking amperage, to turn on the engine. The mechanics will see this and will tell you that the battery has lost its capacity of retention. The trick of Larry, before giving a battery for lost, was what he called the dance of the battery. If the battery was manageable, he took it out of the car and shook it gently from side to side during a few minutes, always with the plugs well closed, to mix the electrolyte again. If the battery was installed and he did not want to take it out, he applied an equalization charge. This consists in using an intelligent charger that raises the voltage to about 15 or 16 volts during a short period. This generates small bubbles of gas that act as a natural mixer, redistributing the acid through all the cell. This process of homogenization returns the starting power instantly. It is a secret of basic physics that the workshops prefer to ignore to sell you a new battery. But be careful, because there is a component that connects your battery with the world and that almost nobody suspects is the culprit, as we will reveal in position 14. Position 14, the mystery of the corroded ground cable. This is the trick that separates the real mechanics from the simple parts changes. Larry said that the battery is only half of the circuit, the other half is the chassis of the car. The ground cable, which goes from the negative terminal to the engine block or to the bodywork, is the return path for all the electricity. Due to its location, often near the ground or exposed to humidity, this cable develops internal corrosion that is not visible to the naked eye. You can have the most powerful and new battery of the market, but if the ground cable has resistance, the starter motor will turn slow, the lights will flicker, and the alternator will not be able to charge the battery correctly. I have seen hundreds of people spend money on new batteries and alternators only to discover that the problem persisted. The trick of Larry to diagnose this was the voltage drop test. With the engine attempting to start, he measured the voltage between the negative post of the battery and the engine block. If the reading was superior to 0.2 volts, the cable was defective. The solution of Larry was as cheap as effective. He removed the cable, sanded the contact points on the chassis until the metal shined, and applied a layer of conductive grease. In severe cases, he simply added a second ground cable of thick gauge. Suddenly the car started with an incredible force and all the electrical failures disappeared. The mechanics hate this trick because it solves complex problems with a piece of copper of $10. But the electricity not only flows, it also stagnates, and the position 13 treats about how to eliminate that digital stagnation. Position 13, the master reset of the capacitors. In modern cars, the battery not only powers the starter motor, but keeps dozens of microprocessors alive. Larry explained that with time, these modules can enter into error states or logic loops due to voltage fluctuations or peaks of interference. This can cause the battery to discharge mysteriously or the car to not recognize the key. The mechanics will charge you a fortune for reprogramming modules, but Larry had a trick that he called the hard reset. The secret consists in disconnecting both cables from the battery, first the negative, then the positive. Once the battery is totally isolated, you must join the two cables of the car to each other, the positive cable and the negative cable of the vehicle, never the battery terminals. Using a jumper cable or simply touching them if they reach each other. You must maintain this union during about 30 seconds. What does this achieve? The electronic modules have capacitors that keep a small electrical charge to maintain the volatile memory. By joining the cables, you provoke a controlled and total discharge of all the capacitors of the system. This forces all the computers of the car to restart from zero in the next start, erasing temporary errors and recalibrating the sensors of energy management. It is the equivalent to restarting your computer when it freezes. Many times, a battery that seemed incapable of making the car function becomes perfect again after this digital purging. But careful with the temperature, because the position 12 reveals why you have been protecting your battery from the wrong enemy. Position 12, the thermal insulation. The popular myth exists that winter is the #1 killer of batteries. Larry always told me that that was an error of perception. The cold is only the executioner that executes the sentence, but the true killer is the heat of summer. The high temperatures under the hood accelerate the internal chemical reaction, provoking that the plates degrade and the water evaporates at an alarming rhythm. A battery that survives a hot summer remains so weakened that upon arriving the first cold, it does not have the necessary force to move the thick oil of the engine. Many modern manufacturers include a small cover of plastic or felt around the battery. Many drivers, and some lazy mechanics, throw it in the trash when they change the battery, thinking that it is only a wrapper. Larry considered this a mechanical sin. That cover is a thermal shield designed to protect the cells from the direct radiation of the engine. The trick of Larry for batteries that did not bring this protection was to fabricate an artisanal shield using reflective insulating material. Maintaining the temperature of the battery only 5 or 10 degrees below the temperature of the engine compartment can double its useful life. Additionally, Larry recommended always verifying that the fresh air duct, if the car has it, that goes toward the battery box is not obstructed by leaves or dirt. A cool battery is a happy battery that does not sulfate internally. And talking about internal chemistry, the position 11 will teach you to read the health of your battery through an eye that does not blink. Position 11, the hydrometer and the true acid density. A multimeter tells you the voltage, but Larry said that the voltage is a liar. A battery can mark 12.6 volts, theoretically charged at 100%, and fail miserably under load. The definitive trick of the experts to know if a battery is recoverable is to use a hydrometer, a tool that costs less than $15 and that measures the specific density of the electrolyte. The density of the sulfuric acid changes according to the state of charge. If you measure the 6 cells and find that 5 are fine but one has a density much lower, you have located the problem. That cell is short-circuited or sulfated in excess. A mechanic would tell you to throw the battery away, but Larry had a technique for these individual cells. He knew that by applying a slow and controlled charge, sometimes he could break the sulfate crystals of that specific cell and balance the battery again. The hydrometer gives you a real radiography of the internal chemistry. If all the cells have a similar low density, the battery simply is discharged and needs a recovery cycle. If there are great differences, the battery has a structural damage. Knowing this distinction avoids you buying a battery when you only needed a deep charge, or avoids you staying stranded trying to charge a battery that already has a dead cell. But the greatest secret of all, the one that will make you save more money, is the one Larry called the trick of the solstice, which we will see in position 10. Position 10, the voltage rest and the morning diagnosis. This is the habit that Larry practiced with every car that entered his workshop before touching a single screw. He said that to know the real state of a battery, you cannot measure it just after turning off the engine, because the alternator leaves a surface charge that fakes the data. The trick is to measure the battery after the car has been off at least 8 hours, preferably in the morning before the first start. A healthy battery should mark 12.6 volts after a night of rest. If it marks 12.4, it is at 75%. If it marks 12 volts exact, it is practically discharged and suffering permanent damages. But the secret of Larry to confirm the health was to turn on the high beams during 30 seconds before measuring. This eliminates the surface charge and reveals the true retention capacity of the plates. If after this small effort the voltage falls below 12 volts and does not recover quickly, the battery is at the end of its useful life. This preventive diagnosis allows you to plan the replacement or attempt a recovery before the car leaves you stranded in the least opportune moment. It is a method of listening to the electrical heart of the car without necessity of complex tools. We have concluded the first phase of this journey through the electrical system. We have learned to detect parasites, to perform deep chemical cleanings, to rehydrate dry cells and to purge digital errors. But this is only the surface. Now we are going to enter into the techniques of extreme resurrection. We will reveal how to use common chemical products to undo the internal sulfation, and we will explain the trick number 1. That single verification that will tell you if your battery really needs to be changed or if the dealership is attempting to scam you. Do not move, because the true magic of Larry is about to begin. Position 9. The secret of Epsom salts and chemical desulfation. When a battery discharges and remains so, the lead sulfate crystals on the plates harden so much that they can no longer convert themselves again into active energy during the charge. Larry called this the sclerosis of the battery. The master trick for these extreme cases, when the slow charge no longer works, is the use of magnesium sulfate, commonly known as Epsom salts. This is an old school trick that the battery manufacturers detest because it can resurrect units that have been dead for months. The process consists in dissolving about 10 tablespoons of Epsom salts in half a liter of hot distilled water until the mixture is perfectly saturated. Larry emptied a bit of the old electrolyte from each cell and replaced it with this magic solution. The magnesium acts as a chemical cleaning agent that helps to dissolve the hardened sulfate crystals on the lead plates, allowing that the flow of electrons restores itself. After adding the mixture, Larry put the battery in a very slow charge of barely 2 amps during 24 hours. As the chemistry stabilized, the voltage started to rise miraculously. I have seen batteries that could not turn on even a light bulb return to start heavy diesel engines after this treatment. It is a solution of last resort that costs less than $5 and that can give you 2 or 3 additional years of service. But before playing at being an alchemist, ensure that the alternator is not the true culprit, a topic that we will explore in Position 8. Position 8. The alternator ripple test and the leaking diode. Many drivers blame the battery when in reality they have an alternator that is poisoning the system. Larry taught me that an alternator can be charging at 14 volts and even so, be killing the battery silently. This happens when one of the internal diodes of the rectifier bridge fails. The alternator starts to send alternating current instead of pure direct current. The alternating current heats internally the plates of the battery and accelerates the corrosion in a violent way. The professional trick of Larry was to use the multimeter in the scale of volts of alternating current, AC. With the engine on, he measured directly in the battery terminals. A healthy system should show practically 0 volts of alternating current. If the reading is superior to 50 millivolts, you have a defective diode that is boiling your battery inside. This electrical ripple not only exhausts the chemical life of the battery, but also confuses the computers of the car, provoking failures in the transmission or random warning lights. Many mechanics only check the total charging voltage and say that everything is fine, forcing you to buy one battery after another without solving the origin of the problem. Detecting a leak of alternating current allows you to repair the alternator in time and save your electrical investment. But not everything is voltage. Sometimes the problem is the internal climate of the battery, as we will see in Position 7. Position 7, the thermo effect and the engine bay ventilation. Larry said that the battery is like a living being. If it has too much heat, it suffocates. If it has too much cold, it paralyzes. In modern cars, the engine compartment is an oven that reaches temperatures of 90 degrees Celsius. A battery exposed to this heat without protection will suffer from a massive internal evaporation and an accelerated degradation of the active material of the plates. The trick of Larry to combat this was the optimization of the fresh airflow. He ensured that the original air deflector of the car, that piece of plastic that seems insignificant in front of the engine, was directing fresh air specifically toward the battery box. If the car did not have it from factory, Larry installed a small reflective thermal shield that he himself fabricated with aluminum tape and fiberglass insulation. Additionally, Larry always checked the ventilation tube of the battery. Many modern batteries have a small lateral port to connect a hose that expels the hydrogen gases outside the engine. If this tube is obstructed or is not connected, the acid gases accumulate around the battery, fostering the corrosion of the cables and increasing the internal temperature. Maintaining the battery 10 degrees cooler can double the months of useful life that you obtain from it. However, the physical health is nothing without the digital coordination, a topic that we will address in Position 6 with the battery registration. Position 6, the battery registration and the software deception. In European vehicles and many models of high range manufactured in the last decade, there exists a system called Intelligent Energy Management. This system carries a record of the age of the battery. As the battery ages, the alternator increases the charging voltage to compensate for the loss of chemical efficiency. Larry showed me that this system has a dark side. If you change the battery yourself and do not notify the computer through a scanner, the car will continue charging the new battery as if it were the old one. This means that the alternator will subject your recently bought battery to excessively high voltages, cooking it and destroying it in less than 1 year. The dealerships charge a fortune for this registration process, but the trick of Larry was to use simple telephone applications and adapters of low cost that allow doing the registration at home. Larry also knew that sometimes you could deceive the system by resetting the age counter of a battery that was still in good state but that the car had already marked as defective. By resetting the registration, the computer returned to use a soft charge profile, extending the life of the original battery by a couple of years more. It is a software barrier designed so that you return to the official workshop, but with the adequate knowledge, you have the control. But even the best software fails if the nerves of the car are dirty, as we will see in Position 5. Larry utilized a very clear analogy. It is like trying to feed a baby with the same quantity of food that you give to a teenager in full growth. You are simply going to make him sick. Many drivers complain that the original batteries last 7 years, but the replacement ones barely reach 2. The secret is not in the quality of the replacement battery, but in the forgetting of the registration. If you do not have access to a professional scanner, Larry recommended searching for communities of enthusiasts of your car brand, where there usually exist button combination tricks on the dashboard or on the brake pedal that can force a reset of the energy management system. Additionally, Larry warned about the danger of installing a battery of a different technology, like changing one of lead acid for one of absorbent glass fiber, AGM. If the type of battery is not changed in the software, the alternator will destroy the new unit in record time because the absorption voltages are different. Learning to navigate the hidden menus of your car is the difference between being an informed owner or being a constant source of income for the dealership. This digital barrier is the last trick of the programmed obsolescence, but the physical cleaning continues being the base of everything, as we will see in Position 5. Position 5, the fine-grained sandpaper trick and the surface conductivity. Many drivers clean their terminals and think that the job is done, but Larry always went one step further. He said that the lead oxidizes in a matter of seconds upon contact with the air, creating a layer of lead oxide that is opaque grey and, most importantly, is an electrical resistance. The trick of Larry to ensure a contact of aerospace grade was to use 400-grain sandpaper to polish both the battery terminal and the interior of the cable terminal until they shined like mirrors. Immediately after polishing and before the air oxidized the metal again, Larry applied a very fine layer of lithium grease or dielectric grease. The secret here is that the grease does not conduct electricity, but when you tighten the terminal, the metal displaces the grease and creates an intimate contact of metal with metal, while the excess grease seals the contour so that the oxygen never touches the junction point again. I have seen cars that had heavy starting problems heal instantly with this treatment. It is not sufficient that the terminal is tight, it must be electrically fused. A deficient connection can provoke that the starter motor consumes double the amperage, exhausting the battery unnecessarily in each start. This small attention to detail is what makes a battery of Larry last 7 years while that of his neighbor lasts 2. But careful, because there is a component that looks like a toy, but that is the best friend of your battery in Position 4. A detail that the mechanics always omit is the state of the terminal nut itself. If the screw is rusted, you can tighten it with all your forces and the multimeter will mark a firm connection for you. But under the demand of 300 amps of a cold start, that connection will heat up and the current will stop. Larry submerged the entire terminals in a solution of boiling water before sanding them to eliminate any trace of crystallized acid that could be hidden under the insulation of the cable. The secret to maintain this conductivity for years was the use of the dielectric grease in a strategic way. The grease goes on the outside, never between the contact points, he used to say. Applying grease directly on the terminal before putting the cable can create an insulating barrier. The correct technique is to connect, tighten until the exact point of no movement, and then paint the junction with grease to seal it from the air. This small ritual prevents that the humidity of the engine creates that bridge of sulfation that drains the battery when the car is off. It is a question of contact physics that ensures that each electron reaches its destination. But modern technology offers us an ally that works while we sleep, as we will discover in Position 4. Position 4, the high-frequency pulse desulfator. Larry always had in his workshop a small device that emitted a constant high-pitched beep. It was an electronic pulse desulfator. While the Epsom salts are a chemical cleaning, this apparatus performs a physical cleaning. The secret of this device is that it sends high-frequency pulses through the plates that resonate with the natural frequency of the sulfate crystals. This resonance provokes that the crystals break and detach from the lead plates, returning to dissolve in the electrolyte. Larry recommended leaving this apparatus connected whenever the car was not used for more than 3 days. It is a preventive trick that maintains the battery plates as clean as the day they came out of the factory. What the mechanics do not tell you is that the majority of the batteries die by sulfation much before the lead is worn out. If you prevent the crystals from hardening, you are eliminating the #1 cause of battery death. These apparatuses cost barely $20 and can be installed in a permanent way in the vehicle. It is the most effective life insurance for any modern electrical system that suffers from short city trips. And talking about short trips, the Position 3 reveals why your driving style is the one that really decides the death date of your battery. Larry remembered how in the 80s they had to throw away batteries that nowadays are perfectly recoverable with these devices. The trick is patience. A desulfator does not fix a battery in 10 minutes. It can take 3 weeks of constant pulses to clean a plate that has been neglected for years. What is fascinating is that this apparatus consumes so little energy that it can be left connected indefinitely. Larry installed it hidden near the fuse box, connected directly to the terminals, so that each time the alternator was charging, the device took advantage of that energy to clean, internally, the cells. What the industry does not want you to know is that if you install this small apparatus since the battery is new, you could extend its useful life up to 10 years. The majority of the batteries are discarded because their starting capacity drops, not because the lead has disintegrated. By eliminating the crystal barrier of sulfate, you maintain the surface of the plates always available for the chemical reaction. It is an investment of $20 that protects a piece of $200. But even with the best technology, the worst enemy of the battery is the owner who does not know how to drive, as we will see in Position 3. Position 3, the 20-kilometer rule and the recovery charge. Larry had an unbreakable rule for all his clients. If you use the car to go to the supermarket that is 5 minutes away, you are killing your battery. Starting the engine consumes a massive quantity of energy, and the alternator needs time to return that charge. The trick of Larry was to explain that the alternator is not a fast charger, it is a maintainer. At least 20 kilometers of constant driving at highway speeds are needed to recover the energy that was spent in a single start. If your daily routine consists of several short trips, your battery is living in a state of constant energy deficit. This provokes an accelerated sulfation because the battery never reaches being at 100% of its capacity. The secret of Larry for the persons who cannot avoid the short trips was the use of an intelligent maintenance charger once a month. Connecting the car to the house current during one night allows that the battery receives a deep and controlled charge that the alternator will never be able to give it in the city. This small habit of feeding the battery in an external way can triple its useful life and ensure that it always has the maximum power for those cold starts. But do not forget about the safety, because the Position 2 treats about the explosion of energy that can occur if you ignore a visual detail. For those who live in frigid climates, the trick of Larry was the electrical warming. Before attempting to start on a morning of 20 degrees below zero, he turned on the position lights for 10 seconds. "This wakes up the electrons," he said. That small initial consumption generates a slight internal heat in the battery due to the chemical resistance, which improves drastically its capacity of current delivery just when you need it most for the starter motor. It is a choreography of energy that guarantees that the tank never stays dry. But careful, because there is a visual indicator that deceives us all, as we will see in Position 2. Position 2, the bullseye and the lie of the built-in hydrometer. Many batteries come with a small plastic circle that changes color, often called magic eye. The manufacturer tells you that if it is green, the battery is fine. Larry hated this component and called it the green liar. The technical secret is that magic eye only measures the acid density of a single one of the 6 cells of the battery. You can have a dead or dry cell right next to it, and the eye will continue marking green because that specific cell still has some charge. Larry taught me to never trust in that visual indication. The real trick is to ignore the color and use a real load tester or a multimeter after the rest, as we learned previously. Trusting in the magic eye is the reason why many people stay stranded without previous warning. They believe that their battery is perfect until the car simply does not start. Larry always said that the only truth is in the direct measurement of each terminal and in the physical inspection of the terminals. Do not permit that a piece of colored plastic gives you a false sensation of security. And now, prepare yourself, because we have reached the secret number 1, the definitive diagnosis that will convert you into a master of automotive electricity. Position 1, the starter motor load test. The final trick of Larry is the most revealing of all. He said that the best battery tester is not an expensive shop device, but the starter motor itself of your vehicle. The secret consists in performing a voltage test during the start. You need a multimeter and preferably someone who helps you to turn the key. You must place the multimeter cables on the battery terminals and observe the voltage exactly in the moment in which the starter motor is turning. A healthy battery can lower its voltage, but it must never fall below 9.6 volts during the start. If the voltage falls to 7 or 8 volts, the battery no longer has the capacity to deliver the necessary current under pressure, even if it marks 12.6 volts at rest. This test tells you the absolute truth about the internal resistance of the plates. If the voltage falls too much, the battery is finished. But here is the final twist of Larry. If the voltage maintains itself above 10 volts and the engine still turns slow, the problem is not the battery, but the starter motor itself, which is consuming too much energy or cables that have resistance. This diagnosis avoids you changing batteries that are perfect and directs you directly to the root of the problem. It is the absolute mastery of electricity, knowing exactly where the flow of the life of your car is failing. Mastering the battery is mastering the will of your vehicle to come to life each morning. Through the 18 tricks of Larry, we have passed from cleaning simple terminals with bicarbonate to performing chemical resurrections and voltage drop diagnoses worthy of a racing engineer. Remember that your battery is not an inert plastic block. It is a reserve of chemical energy that responds to the care, to the heat, and to the intelligence of who handles it. The Uncle Larry left this world years ago, but his leather notebook continues saving cars in every corner where someone decides not to accept that is how things are. I challenge you to not return to see that black box under your hood with indifference. Rehydrate it, maintain it cool, pulse its plates with electronics, and above all, do not permit that the software of a manufacturer dictates when you should spend your money. With these knowledges, you have the power to make your battery last as much as the engine itself. The path is long, but now your start will be always strong and safe. See you on the road.